last video, it just kind of cut off, and I left y'all with the fact that I think it was, I was talking about leading up to the time when that our house burnt, and how that God did not do that, but He spoke to my heart through a book that I was reading that He is Jehovah Jireh, God our provider. And also during that time, there was a song that I was listening to that every time that I would hear the song, and I can't tell you exactly what the name of the song is right now. I didn't look it up before I started this video, and that's my fault. I do apologize. But anyway, every time I would hear that song, the Lord would I would just, in my heart, I would be like, what would you do if everything was gone? And I really wrestled with that question for several days, maybe even weeks, before I came up with the answer to that question. And I finally came up with an answer. My heart finally came up with the answer, is like, well, if everything was gone, I would still trust you anyway, Lord. And that was leading up to this. I went to Oklahoma City today and took my husband back to the airport, and so now we're headed back home. Anyway, this car turned out in front of me, and they're going super slow, but that's okay. So our pastor that had been a pastor for over 50-something years, the Wednesday night before our house burnt down on Thursday night, preached a message on guardian angels. And he said, in his message, he said, I've never preached a message on guardian angels. This is different for me. And he just preached this whole message on how that we each have a guardian angel, and laid it out with scripture that each one of us have an angel that's assigned to us, and that's our guardian angel, that they're there looking out for us, looking after us. And so Thursday, that was Wednesday night. Thursday, Jeff was Jeff's, basically, he was getting ready to leave the job that he had to go into a complete different career. And that Thursday, I had to pick up some medication at a little pharmacy that had a gift shop there. And as I was looking over everything, it was just in my mind, I thought, all this stuff doesn't matter. One day, all this stuff is going to be just burn up, and it has absolutely no value. Yeah, it had a retail sticker price on it, and that was the value of it at that store. I understand that. But in my mind, I was like, this actually has zero value. Well, Jeff was getting ready to change jobs, and so he brought his truck home that he drove. He brought it home that evening, and we cleaned the truck out, and he broke my broom while he was cleaning his truck out on an accident, and I really liked that broom. I was like, that was a good broom. I haven't had a broom like that just swept so good in my mind. That's what I thought. And while he was cleaning his truck out, he used that broom to sweep, and the handle broke on it, and I was really disappointed in that. But anyway, it was supposed to have gotten down to like 15 degrees that night. It was in October, and that was the first really cold spell that we were having of the year. And I had brought all my outdoor plants, hanging plants and that kind of thing that had been on my porch. I'd brought all those inside, and we had put a little light. Our dogs had a dog house on the south side of the porch, and we had put a light out there for them, and it had ran into our daughter's bedroom. Well, I'm not 100% for sure, but it was plugged in. It was like right there at her window, and was plugged in her room. And that is where the fire started at, right there. Both of our dogs weren't in their doghouse. Neither neither one of the dogs got hurt in any way. They were 100% fine. But I told you, in the other video that we had moved our daughter because we were remodeling her room at that time. And thank God for that remodel, because that fire started in Caitlin's bedroom, and her bedroom was completely engulfed in flames when Jeff woke up about 1 o'clock in the morning. I think it was like 1:15 in the morning. He wakes up and he said, "Get up, our house is on fire." And I was just like, "Oh no, it's not." And he's like, "No, get up, our house is on fire." And so I jump up, run up to where the kids, we start, yelling for the kids. Aaron's in his room, Caitlin's in the room that we had put her in to stay in. And we're like, "The house is on fire, get up, get up." And so the front part of the house was already, her bedroom was completely engulfed in flames. The living room was next to her bedroom, so it moved in between her bedroom wall and that living room wall next. Aaron, his room was in the same hall that Caitlin's bedroom was in. We get him out, we get Caitlin out, and our bedroom is down a couple of steps, and we take them out the back door of our bedroom. We had a bedroom door on our bedroom, and when we opened that back door, the whole front of the house just completely exploded into flames. I had gotten my cell phone. It was plugged in near the couch, and I had time to grab my cell phone, and we, like I said, went out. I didn't even have shoes on. It was super cold, so I'm calling on my cell phone as I'm tippy-toeing around our house trying to get into the front yard to my vehicle, for us to get into the vehicle. And I'm walking across on the north side of the house. I had a small pond. We have stickers out where we live. Well, I had a little small pond. It was just like a koi type pond, and it had gravel, around it. And so we're barefooted and we're tippy-toeing out through there and on those rocks and stuff. And anyway, into the yard, into the grass, and I'm on the phone with the fire department, and I'm telling them that our house is on fire, and explaining to them where we're at. We lived out in the country. And so anyway, we go and get in our vehicles, and our fire departments are voluntary. They're volunteer fire departments out where we live, and they were there within minutes. It was so quick. 4 different departments responded to our fire. Our local fire department, and then they called in the town close to where we live. Our local fire department is it's a community fire department. The town where we live, it's a little community fire department. Then there's another little community fire department, and then Altus, their fire department, also came, and it took all 4 of them. And we sat there in the front yard of our house in our vehicle, and we watched our house burn to the ground, like literally burned to the ground. And it was those guardian angels that woke Jeff up at 1:15 or so in the morning. I may not get the time exactly right, but in October, that woke him out of a dead sleep. I had heard the dogs barking, and I thought maybe he heard the dogs barking. He said, "No, I never heard the dogs barking." He said, "I woke up out of a dead sleep and knew that our house was on fire." And God put that, I believe, in him as the leader of the home. And he gathered us all up, and we all went outside, and my mom and dad, they were gone. My dad did insurance adjusting, and they were gone on a storm somewhere. And so my aunt and uncle lives a couple of miles from us, and they provided us a place to stay that night. We went over to their house, and were able to stay the night there with them. But is honestly a miracle. The things that happened around that, God showing me that, hey, things don't really matter. Him protecting Caitlin and getting her out of her bedroom and putting her in a different room, like totally orchestrated a whole room remodel so that she wouldn't be in that place. The front screen, like we had a semi wraparound porch on our house. It was built up. The screen door, like, literally melted and ran down the front steps on our house. Like, just the metal was just like melted. There were so many miracles involved in that. One of the other miracles was that the electric company we had thought had come out and shut the electric off to the house. The wire had burnt into, and it was laying there on the ground where it went into the house. It was just laying there on the ground, and it had been thought by everybody that the electric company had come out. They had come out, but that line had been shut off, and that was a dead wire. And you don't even know how many times when we were just there looking things over, walking things around after the initial house burnt down, that I almost walked over and picked the electric line up and just kind of moved it back out of the way. But I always hesitated, and I never did do that. Well, my uncle was out there one day, and he was like, has anybody checked to make sure that's actually a dead wire? And I was like, I have no idea. We were just kind of in a little bit of a shock state, I think. And he went over to the pole, and he was like, no, it's still on. And so he shut that off. But there had been people out there. The adjuster had been out there. We had been out there. You know, looky-loos had been out there. We had to put a no trespassing sign up to keep people from coming in to where it was. But anyway, that was another miracle surrounding that he was able to see that and turn that off, and nobody got electrocuted. But that's how our house that my grandparents lived in, that's how it burnt down. And we rebuilt on the same property, and that's where we're at now, is there on that same property where we rebuilt at. But that was a whole new beginning, a new chapter of our life, because like I said, Jeff was leaving one job, starting a completely different career, out of sales into oil and gas. And then our house burnt down, and we were literally I say literally in the utmost literal term when I say that. Our house burned to the ground. We didn't have anything left, and we're having to start over in that aspect also. So anyway, come back and I'll give you some more. But God was faithful in it all. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for listening.